Good afternoon. In the previous chapter we have learned about how to build, how to install Android Studio, a comprehensive package, and then we learned about how to create the preliminary Android project. And in this chapter we will learn about how to run the Android emulator inside of the Android Studio. In order to run the Android emulator, after creating some part of the application, you can go here, run the app, and the requisite Android emulator will start running. Now after starting out the project and running the Gradle successfully, which means that the project built so far has been comprehensively saved in the earlier session, so that it reopens, and this means that Android Studio is working perfectly. If the earlier project is not loading, then it is better to connect to internet and report to Google, Android Studio or Google, so that in the next time some updates will be given and automatically these errors will be solved. So this time we have seen in the event log that Gradle synchronization started and it is completed, and this means that software development kit of Android is working perfectly. In the case you close this and start it again tomorrow and the same project it appears, then that should be available to the point you leave out the project, and this means that your Android Studio is working perfectly. Android Studio is working perfectly. In the extreme right of the Android Studio, you have the Project Explorer tab, where the entire relational information regarding projects can be found easily. It is the extreme right, it is the Project Information tab, which is listed as Android. It is the Project Information tabs, and here you can find different project information, but it is better to stay with Android or project files. Whichever you do it is better to stay with Android in the Project Information tab or Project Explorer. Inside the Android application app folder, we have the subfolder Manifest Java and Resources. Now this is the Project Explorer. Here every component are hiding inside the app can be found, and here you can find Manifest and so many other folders. Inside Manifest is the Android Manifest XML, and by double clicking here you can find the Android Manifest XML, which is nothing but the entire information related to the application, and here you can create log files or any other system information which we will be learning about later. And inside the Java folder there are various files and your main activity, and by opening it you can create all these activities and create those requisite for creation. These are requisite for creation of various event logs, so that you can know how the application is running, and other things you can do from here in the main activity channel of Java. And here every Java coding can be done, and you can do it. Every Java coding can be done and you can do it, and then this will be implicated with the Android application. And then we have the resources subfolder. Here you can insert images, multimedia components to make your application better and sophisticated. On the extreme downside of the Android Studio and on its left hand side, you keep an eye on the progress bar. Here the progress bar is there, because now there is no project is running, only the static project is there. The project bar is not visible, but here the project bar is visible. Here the project bar is there, you can look for it, and if the project bar is running, then you can double click on the project bar to see what are the background services are running, so that after completion of the services you can then edit your app through different functions, either through design or through text. And the design running background processes, and this is very important and meaningful considering the presence of running of background processes. You can slow down the speed of developing project and wait for the background processes to stop, that each and every part of running processes can run at a very compatible level. So this is the progress bar. Once the movement of progress bar is complete, you can begin editing the project. Once progress bar stops moving, which means project completely loaded and Android Studio, and from here you can start building the project. After starting about 2 sections, and this session is all about running Android app inside Android emulator, so that we can preview exactly what app is all about and what are pros and cons of it. We cannot directly run the core of the project with the emulator. Before it, we have to check the compatibility issues with it and then run the project with the emulator. First, we have to check out that whether the Android software development kit and Java development kit are in proper path inside project structure. If you have installed Android Studio complete bundle, which is almost 2 GB for Windows 7 and beyond, then probably both SDK and the embedded Java development kit are installed in correct path. So first we have to know what is the role of the ABD Manager, Android Virtual Device Manager. By clicking here, we see that I have already created 2 Android Virtual Device Manager, and we will in the later stages know how to create this. This is the Android Virtual Device Manager. This is not compulsory, but it is a very sophisticated and convenient tool to know on live how your application is performing on the Android device. So if it is not installed, then you can build the APK even at the half stage of the project, then generate the APK and then download it and then into the Android device, and then go to setting and allow the installation from third party, then install it and check it. So this is the another process, but if you install the Android emulator, then ABD Manager, through ABD Manager, then it is very convenient. So first you have to check it through the project structure whether the main element of Android emulator, that is we call it as HAXM, is installed it or not. If not, then connect to internet and install it. First we go to the SDK Manager. It will open. SDK Manager now opens. Here appearance and behavior, then Android SDK. Here go to SDK tools. In the first SDK manager for the Android SDK and tools to be used by Android Studio. Each Android software development kit platform package includes the Android platform and sources pertaining to an API label by default. Once it is installed, Android Studio will automatically check for abstracts. Check show package details to display individual software development kit packages. So here clicking it, you can find it, individual software development kit packages. So now we find the now we see I have installed Android Nougat. It is installed, and inside it how many other packages are installed or not, I can check from here. I have not installed Android TV, Android Wear or other, because first we have to learn about how to create Android app for Android smartphones. So unnecessary installation of software packages. I have not intended to install it. Then we have to go to the SDK tools. Then we go to the SDK tools. SDK tools here, it is the manager for the Android SDK tool used by the Android studios. These are the list of Android software development kit developers tools. Once installed, Android Studio will automatically check for objects. So here go to Intel x86 emulator accelerator HXM installer. If it is installed, then it is okay. If it is not, then check the box and then click OK and connect to internet, and it will be downloaded for you and installed for you. This is important for the Intel enabled processor computer, so that the Android emulator works nicely, because Android emulator takes lot of virtual memory. That is why hardware acceleration is also needed. If you have not activated hardware acceleration and go to the BIOS setting, it is recommended for the geeks to go. Otherwise, contact your computer mechanic, and they will come and enable hardware acceleration through BIOS setting through the boot, and then that Intel XM inside Intel enabled computer, the emulator will work in the on-live location. It works very fast. So this is the needed. And here in the SDK updated sites, these are sites explorer Android SDK updated tools. When unchecks the Android SDK manager will not check for site objects. If it is checked, from time to time it will check for the latest version of the Android SDK or its software packages. So it is also good. And here we have seen Intel XM is installed. So this is the prerequisites for the emulator. Inside SDK Manager, we have list of all the Android packages we need from time to time while developing Android application. Android Studio provides the most compatible environment for us, so that we could write the code of Android very easily. For creation of application, we do need many packages in terms of software development kit, so that we could construct Android apps. From SDK Manager, we could find each and every software information and their update formats, and from time to time we will ask for the update, and we could add more and more software packages in accordance with our need for application development. Each Android software development platform package includes the Android performance sources pertaining to an API label by default. Once installed, Android Studio will automatically check for updates, check show package detail to display individual components. Go to SDK tools and check show package details to display individual component. Here search for Intel x86 emulator accelerator HXM installer, and if the checkbox is failed, then it means that it had been installed already, and if not, connect to internet and then check that box and click OK, and Android Studio will automatically download Intel x86 emulator accelerator installer. The emulator will not going to work unless your computer has hardware acceleration enabled. If it is not, then this emulator will not going to work. In order to do this, you have to enter into BIOS setting of computer, and this should be done by expert or geeks, and for this you can contact your computer maintenance manager for this. It is advisable not to enter into BIOS setting all by yourself, and it is advisable to contact computer advisor of yours so that they can enable hardware accelerator. The process of enablement of hardware accelerator of computer is not essential, but if so, then accelerator can run with faster process. If not, the emulator will take some time to load. It is also important to know that installing of emulator also not mandatory, but this can reduce the worry of checking of this can reduce the worry of checking of the upfront without worry about the running actual services. Till this time, we have learned about how to set the Android emulator so that we can easily see the execution of the app we have just made in real time. This apparently removes all sources all such worries about any incompatible issues pertaining to Android. In the later on studies, we will learn about how to install emulator and adjust it to show about the byte, as well as in the case if your computer has not Intel processor instead of AMD processor, then how to enable such emulator functions. For this, another package needs to be installed with Android Studio, and everything will be discussed in the upcoming chapters. Android Studio is specifically designed for non-geeks so that they could enter into the arena of coding and find out how to easier to develop Android application. Slowly we will be learning about different characteristics and elements of Android Studio before venturing into opening of creation of applications, so that ultimately you could feel easier to work with it, having no difficulty in building an application with it. It is important to have some sort of basic ideas about building up Java coding, and in subsequent process of learning we will also have some detailed look how to run and use Android emulator in non-Intel processor devices. We will also have some look at Java coding, so that ultimately when you do use with Android Studio, that process will be completely easier for us to learn. In this understanding, we know that in this chapter we have learned about comprehensively about how to run the Android emulator inside Android Studio. This is part 1 of this chapter. In the second chapter we will know completely about it. So first we see the Android ABD Manager, and then we go to the Sdk Manager and Sdk tool to check out Intel emulator accelerator. So that's the end of this and that is the end of this course. Do know that this is the part 1 of how to run the Android emulator inside Android Studio, and if you want to know the find the script of it, then go to https mohanmakeup.com, mohanmakeup.com, and here the how to run the Android emulator inside Android Studio. Click on it, and here you will find detailed information about, and subsequently there is detailed information about Project Explorer, progress bar, project structure, Sdk Manager with the screenshot, as well as video tutorials with it, so that you can learn easily and detailed about it. Thanks for attending this video.